Hey everybody, welcome. We are so excited to have you here. My name is Riggs Kay, and today we're going to show you the vital tools you should be using in your IMVU Studio creator workflow. And after that, we'll be answering your questions via our Q&A feature. Please use the Q&A feature to ask questions, and remember to keep your questions on topic and GA friendly. And if you haven't downloaded the latest IMVU Studio product, let me just give you a link to download. Hold on. Here it is. It's in our chat. We will be recording this webinar so that creators who were unable to attend this live session can view it later. All right, now that we've got all of the fun stuff taken care of, let's introduce our experts, Drosselmeyer and Tonic. Drosselmeyer is IMVU's digital artist. He's focused on IMVU Studio, and we are so glad to have you here again, Drosselmeyer.
Great to be here. Thank you for the intro. Looking forward to this session and being with all the creator community again.
Thank you. And once again, here is the guy who oversees the development of IMVU Studio, Tonic. Great to have you here again, Ton.
Yeah, really excited to be here and to show everyone some cool tips and tricks on IMVU Studio. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Okay, well, let's get you started. You can go ahead and take over my share and teach everybody all about the awesome new creator workflow features.
Yeah, so as you know, we've been hard at work adding features to IMVU Studio every release. Some features are sort of on the road to parity with the old creator tool, and other features are meant to make your workflow better. Some of them are brand new features that aren't available on IMVU Studio, and over the last several versions, we have introduced quite a bit of new and differing features, and so we thought that it would be good to kind of go over some of the workflow improvements and how to get at them, and hopefully it will make your life better and easier as you're creating products for IMVU. The first that I wanted to show you is I have this example product right here. And just generally importing assets. I have just a blank t-shirt here to just a little test project to start out with. And if you're a texture artist and you've been using IMVU Studio for a while, I know that one of the most direct ways of importing your texture assets onto your materials would be to choose the material, of course, over here in the panel. And then, of course, whatever channel you're putting it into, the diffuse map is the most common. You press plus, then you click on Add Image, and then you go and load it, and then it goes into that slot, and then you do the same thing for the rest of your materials. But especially if you're working on something like a room, if you have a lot of texture assets that you've already created, and of course, we're probably just going to be working with 3 here for this example. But if you have a lot of texture assets, you can click on Import Assets here, and you can load all your assets all at the same time. So I already have the folder that I'm going to pull these assets from started up already. But I can select all of these assets at the same time. I can click Open, and as it comes in, it'll switch to your assets view, and you can see that all those assets have been loaded. So when I come back here to my material panel and I open up to load the diffuse, all of your textures will be in your project images already. So all I have to do is just find my front. Here's my t-shirt front, load it, go to the back, go to diffuse, here, there's my back, and then go to the sleeves, and there's my sleeves, and then preview. And then there's my t-shirt. Now, if I'm going to be working on this texture and I want a way to iteratively go back and forth from Photoshop into IMVU Studio and see what my changes look like very quickly, there is a way to do that, and we've had a lot of questions from creators that things are somewhat slow because they would make a change on Photoshop, go back over here, go back here to the diffuse channel, load the image, and then hit preview, and then they can see their change. But there's a way to set this up that's much more automated, that's built in the IMVU Studio. IMVU Studio will watch its project folder for any changes to the assets inside the project. So actually, let me go ahead and save this first. Always a good idea to do that. And if I come over to my assets panel, I can widen this if I can get to it. I can widen the screen out. Your assets panel actually shows you everything that's in your project folder and the usage of each. If I'm not using it, I can obviously go in and delete certain assets that I'm not using. Very helpful in the assets panel. But a very easy way to find out where your project folder is to go into the asset panel, choose any asset, and in the little drop-down menu, just say open in folder, and it will open your project folder. The project folder for all of your projects will always be in your documents, and this is the same for Windows as well, IMVU Studio projects, and then these are all of my draft projects that I'm working on, projects that I haven't necessarily published yet. And here's my t-shirt example. And of course, once I save it, all of the textures that I imported are now local in my project folder. And if I were to go in here and let's say I'm going to open this one in Photoshop. Now I have this opened in Photoshop, and let's say I'm going to make a quick change to it. I want to see what, and I want to try a different color. As soon as I save the asset, if you notice, the asset automatically updates in IMVU Studio. And so from that point, all I have to do is press preview. And so setting your workflow up this way, you can move back and forth between Photoshop and IMVU Studio very quickly. And just for reference, down in the bottom right-hand corner, if you've ever wondered what this is for, any automatic updates that IMVU Studio does when it detects changes will be listed here in the auto update history. Now, it's a good thing to tell you that this also works for Cal3D files. If you are going back and forth, let's say between 3D Studio Max and updating an XAF file or an animation file, if you update that animation file inside the project folder, it will detect it, it will load it, and then from that point, all you have to do is press preview. Works the same way as textures. We're working in the future on a way to do that with FBX imports as well. But FBX imports is a little more complicated, but we're trying to tighten up the workflow on FBX, and hopefully we'll have something like that out for you soon. Now, in the case where you want to turn off auto updates, you can do that from the preferences. You can turn it off, and IMVU Studio will stop watching the project folder for changes. But I would recommend just always keep it on. It makes it for a really elegant workflow. The second thing that we introduced just in the last version are the idea of pop-up panels. Now, several versions ago, for those of you that have been using IMVU Studio for a little while, when you open up one of these pop-up panels, you could open up multiple pop-up panels and have them all open at the same time. And a lot of people really loved that. It was really interesting. It was about 50% of the people of our creator community said like, oh, I really like that because then I can have a bunch of windows open. And a lot of people are all, this is just really annoying. I just want one open at a time. So we changed the behavior. so that it only opens up one panel at a time. So it's very clear that the panel that I have open right now is the shininess panel. But at the same time, we gave you the ability to pin a panel if you want to keep it open. And this works for any pop-up panel. So if, for example, and this is a bad example, let me go to this diffuse panel I'm looking at. If I wanted to have this panel open and have it stay on screen, I just pin it, and then I can go to any other part of IMVU Studio, and that panel will stay open. And this is true for the action panels as well. Let's say, for example, let me just create one real quick here. If I want to keep my action ensemble panel open, as soon as I pin it, it will stay open, and it will stay open until I unpin it or close it myself. So we're hoping that that solves the best of both worlds for people that want to work with lots of panels open versus people that just want panels to go away as they're moving through their workflow. The third thing that we added just in the last version of IMVU Studio is the idea of default rooms and the ability to save a default room. The room that I have right now with this product is just the basic default room, but we had a lot of requests from creators that like to use a certain room when they're creating products. So we built the ability to change your default room and save it with your product built into IMVU Studio. So if for this particular project that I have, that is called my t-shirt example project. If I wanted to be working on this shirt with a different lighting conditions or just a different room altogether, I can go to my filters and filter for rooms, and then it'll obviously show all the rooms that I own, and I can choose any room that I want to load. Once I save this project, if I then close the project, the next time I open it, it will save that room with that project. So this is the room that will always open when I open this project. One level deeper, if there is a room that I want all of my future projects to open with, let's say this is the room that, anytime I derive from a project, any new product that I'm creating, I want this room to open behind it. I can also click on the little more menu here, and I can say make global default. And when I do that, if I derive from a new product moving forward, just as an example, I'll choose this one and derive from it. It will open with that room moving forward. I can do that there, and I can also go to the preferences and choose my global default room here as well. You can choose any room that you own, any room that's in your inventory. So we hope that makes for a bit nicer experience as you create your products. If you're creating rooms, we also have what we're calling room decoration mode. In the old client, if you're creating rooms or even if you're just working on clothing items, you had the ability to import furniture items into your room if you wanted to check your product with certain animations that a furniture item might have on it. And we've given you that ability here. This little icon enters you into what we're calling decoration mode. And from here, you have a lot of tools at your disposal to be able to add furniture items onto any node in a room or a product that you're working on. So for example, press plus, the tree goes there. I can grab it. I can move it to any node in the room. I can also move it. I can offset it off the node. And these controls over here on the right-hand side, these are kind of experimental controls that aren't available on IMVU Desktop yet in what we're calling room decoration mode in IMVU Desktop. but we have these available here just to make it very easy for you to rotate on all 3 axes, just like you have been able to, like in 3D Studio Max or Blender. You can also move products off axis or off of the node. And then as soon as I hit X and move outside of room decoration mode, that product will stay there. Now, of course, if you're building a room, very clear, putting furniture in a room in IMVU Studio is only for reference. It's not going to save a room shell with all of the furniture pieces. This isn't permanent room decoration. This is just for testing purposes. Let's see, what else is on my list here? Oh, another item that a lot of creators were asking about is if I want to make a copy of a draft and save it under a new name, how do I do that? That is very easy. Let's say I was working on this project and I wanted to make a copy of it. I wouldn't save it, which saves over top of the old version. But you can very easily go into your top menu and save as is right there. I think it was confusing for some people because in the old create mode, you had the ability to save and save as from this button. But we've just moved that to here for now. So, oops. If I go to save as, it just has you put in a new name and you save it. And then from that point forward, I'm now working on test number 2 project. The original project will still be in your draft folder. There's the one I was working on, and here's the new one. So that's save and save as. Now that I'm on our home mode, where you can see all your draft projects, and then of course at the bottom all of your published projects. I wanted to clear up a little bit of confusion when you decide that you want to edit one of your already published projects. For experienced creators out there, your published product list is going to be very, very long, much longer than this little test account that I'm using. But if you have a project that already exists, already published, and you want to go and edit it, you would just come down here and you would go and edit that project. When it opens, it's going to create a draft of that edited project. So when I go and save it, it's basically saving a draft. It's not publishing it automatically. So if I go in and I make any changes to this project and I press save, it's basically just going to be saving. It's just going to be saving a draft of that project. Now, when I get ready to publish this, since it came from a published product, it knows that. And so when I decide to go and submit it, it's going to give me a choice to resubmit it over top of the published product, or I can submit it as a new product, in which case it will give it a new product ID and it will become a new product in the catalog. Of course, this choice is only available if you're editing one of your published products. That is editing published products. Next on the list, and this is mostly for new creators. When you're a new creator and you're first moving through IMVU Studio, it's a little bit. I know it's a little bit of a ramp up to understand that everything gets created off of a derived product. So what's great about that is you have millions of templates that you can start from, especially if you're a texture artist and you just want to create a new texture off of something that already exists. But I'm going to put in a specific PID number here, just for example. Let's search for this project right here. So let's say I found this pants project and it's the perfect product that I want to derive off of as a texture artist and retexture these pants. You can do that, but keep in mind the derivation history over here basically shows you this is the end product that I chose, And these are all the previous derivations of this product throughout its history, all the way up to the very first derivation, which will always be a product owned by IMVU. So you can derive off of this product, and the derivation fee is 454 credits. But just as a little tip, I would look to make sure that there aren't any other products further up in the derivation chain that you can save a little bit of money on. Notice this product right here is only 400 credits, and if the only changes from derivation to derivation have been texture changes, you can save yourself a little bit by moving up the derivation chain and choosing something that that is a little bit more basic. Now, this in particular I chose because every once in a while, or actually quite often, you'll find products up in the derivation chain that have these very basic textures to them. That's a really good indication that this text, or that this creator is a mesh artist, and he's just given you template textures to use. You can verify that if you go to this particular product and you click on the More menu and go to View Project Page, it will open up a website, and this is our old website, but it has a lot of really detailed information as to what's available in this product. And this particular product has templates that you can download that show you the mesh and and all of the vertices to basically help you texture things properly. So I would look for mesher creators to derive your products off of that have these templates available. Makes it a lot easier to build your products. So that's a little bit about the derivation history. This used to be somewhat hidden in the old website, but we built it in to the derivation mode so that you can really kind of see what you're looking for and dive in and out of the derivation history to find exactly what you actually want to derive off of. And we hope that helps. So that's that pretty much covers some of the new features from the last few iterations that we've done. I wanted to just show you one of the new features that we're going to be shipping, I think, in about a week here. So I'm going to close IMVU Studio, and I'm going to open up our this is the test version of IMVU Studio that we're working on right now. And let me open up this one right here. Oh. Let me just do the t-shirt example the way we had before. So this is going to come in handy especially for those of you that are creating rooms or bigger projects. In the next version of IMVU Studio, we are going to allow for larger total size of products. If you notice that I'm editing a top right now, this is the test project that we were looking at. For products that are tops or bottoms or shoes or any really large items, I think hair as well. The previous limit was 2 megabytes for your compressed file that you publish. We've increased that to 3 megabytes. For smaller items like eyes and accessories and miscellaneous, still 2 megabytes. For rooms, however, we have upped that limit to 6 megabytes. And I think this is going to give creators a lot more room to create rooms with more dense and more high quality textures instead of trying to fit all of their textures in a room, or especially an outdoor environment, into such a small space. So we've included the size limitation down here, depending on what product you're deriving from. This is the size of the product that you're trying to upload. and this is the total size that you have available. And so that's always going to be available down at the bottom as you're moving through your product. So we're really excited to release this. We know that especially people trying to build rooms that have the new normal and shininess maps, you're talking about 2 extra maps for every material. So we're hoping this is going to give you a lot more room in order to experiment with the new dynamic lighting and the new mapping capabilities available in IMVU Studio. And that is everything off my list, Riggs. I'm really happy to show everyone the latest stuff. We hope to be doing this more often in the future. Thank you, everyone, beta testers, our alpha testers, for continuing to use IMVU Studio. Use it, experiment with it, build shiny stuff. The more of that we have in our catalog, the better. Remember that 50% of our user community are on the desktop and mobile devices, and all of those new products, or all of the new platforms, can see normal and shininess maps and all the new features that are coming into IMVU Studio. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Tonic. That was awesome, as usual. So just a couple things before we move into our Q&A section. Please feel free to use the Q&A feature to ask more questions. We welcome them. This helps us improve the IMVU Studio experience, getting your feedback, your questions. It really does help us understand what you are wanting and any challenges you may be having. So feel free to ask away. One side note, we are running a creator contest right now through June 5th with some very cool prizes. And if you create and submit a product using IMVU Studio, you will be given extra consideration. So this is the perfect chance to spread your IMVU Studio wings and give it a try. The theme is about creating a dream getaway, and I know we're kind of all thinking about dream getaways these days, so it should be super fun. And I'll just go ahead and get you that link while we go over some of your questions. So I'm going to let Tonic and Drosselmeyer take over by answering some of the questions that you guys have. They'll answer verbally.
Yeah, I think I'll take the very first question I think that was asked. They said, how are you able to spin the avatar without the avatar moving to the other side? I think what they're asking is that the avatar, or that you're panning the camera and you're not rotating around the camera. So let me just share my screen again real quick.
Yes.
Let's see here. So, and I believe this works the same on Windows and as well as MacBook and Apple devices. The way I have my mouse set up, a right click mouse and a left click mouse. If you left click and hold, you will rotate around the avatar, and all I have to do is left click, and even if I move up and down, as long as I'm centered on the avatar, it kind of rotates around the avatar like a pill. So it's sort of an elongated pill. Now, I can also pan away from the avatar if I right click, or if you're using a trackpad, if you use 2-finger click, like if you're on a MacBook or something. So if I 2-finger click, I can actually pan away from the avatar. And once I do that, then the center of influence becomes where the center of the screen is, right? And so now I'm actually panning around the center of where I'm looking at. If I ever want to get back to avatar centric look, I can, and by the way, either with a trackball, or I'm sorry, what is the mouse wheel? That's how you zoom in and out. But if I ever want to get back to center of avatar influence, I can just choose a new node to stand on, and it will center back on the avatar. And then I can just left click, and it gives me back into this like pill configuration where I can rotate around just with 1 finger. And zoom, of course, works as well. So a couple different modes there, and they're semi-automatic. So I hope that answers your question.
I think we have a couple more questions here that we're going to answer live. Someone was really happy with the studio direction, and they were wondering about character limitations and can it make products for role players if the newer version of IMVU make it possible to replay role play. Is character limitation on desktop going to change moving forward? Well, character is kind of a good topic for a whole nother session. So, but yeah, we're trying to, how I was thinking of answering that was, we are in the process of improving the skeletons that we're using, and making improvements to characters in general. The character limitation is kind of limited in that you can do actions, you can have cooperative actions in a room, you can trigger those actions. And I think, there's not much that's going to change in that in the near future, but we are making some improvements in how you actually can build and construct characters. I hope that answered your question.
I was gonna say, if just in case, if what you meant by the question is the number of avatars that can be in a room at the same time.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it could be that, and of course we get that question asked a lot as well. For now, we're staying with 10 avatars that can voluntarily join a room. But I don't know if this is well known, but if you have 10 avatars in a room and you happen to be the room owner, if you can invite more people into the room by a personal invite, and then you can get more than 10 avatars in a room. But we do that by invite only, just basically to keep the keep the CPU and graphic processor cycles down for avatars. And we do that. It's a little bit different than World of Warcraft, which is which every single character and every single product is designed specifically to be very, very optimized for size and for efficiency. But IMVU is actually just the opposite, where we allow someone to build really elegant, amazing hair products, for example, that are 20 or 30,000 polygons, just the hair. And so because of that, we sort of have to limit the number of avatars that can be in a room at any given time. So if that's what you're asking, I wanted to kind of make that clear as well. Let's see, Riggs, do you see anything else on the list? We're just kind of scrolling down the Q&A list here.
Yeah, so there was one other question that I think is kind of a simple one, is what are hidden products? You want to take that one, Tauntaun?
Oh yeah, I think you saw, as I was looking down the derivation chain, that there were many hidden products. Those are products that are either no longer sold by the owner of the product, or products that might have been taken down for some reason or other. When a product is taken down or hidden, it doesn't mean that all the products that were derived from it are taken down, because that would be very unfair. But that's why, and you will see that a lot as you're looking up and down the derivation chain. There are some products that are hidden from the public, and that's the creator's decision.
There's been a couple questions about using the legacy client to create. And one in particular was about being able to create in Studio and then going back and editing in the classic client. And yes, you can. However, we have noticed a few bugs with this. It's not recommended. The safer way to go is obviously if you've created something in the classic client, you can bring it into Studio and edit it there. But the cycle of going back and forth is where we've discovered a lot of very sort of edge case bugs. So the best workflow is just, if you've got something in the classic client, make all of the changes you want to do there and then bring it into Studio. And if you really have to go back in the classic client, yes, you could do that, but better workflow is to work from classic to Studio.
Great. I'll take not necessarily a question, but a statement from Rebecca. Thank you, Rebecca. And I think she stated exactly what I was trying to get at in my demo. She seemed to state it very succinctly. It's important to note for new creators, some products have been derived multiple times using the same texture. New creators should look back in the derivation chain to see if there's a cheaper or more basic derivable that has the same texture. So thank you, Rebecca, for that.
Yeah, and Maddie R has a question. Can you please discuss reflectivity option? Actually, we had a learning session about that some time ago. I think we could probably post a link to that when we publish this learning session. And we also have a couple tutorials that are going to be published very shortly that can go into the details of that. So we can put that in the link as well.
Yeah, I'll be glad to do that. I'll send links to the video tutorials that talk about shininess and normal maps.
Oh, here's another one. A few people have asked about this, the adding of extra avatars. I'm going to go ahead and just ask for this live. Currently, you cannot add an actor in Studio like you could in Classic Client, but that is a planned feature and will be in a future release. There is an option to populate the scene with mannequins. You want to describe that, Tauntaun?
Yeah, I sort of glossed over it, but I can show everyone right now. And Greg's right. We are very aware that adding extra actors is really important, especially if you're testing actions or cooperative actions. It's really important. For now, and this is also an experimental feature, if you go into decoration mode, and let's see, I'm hoping that this test room that I have has a bunch of seat nodes in it. If you wanted to just see where all the seat nodes are in a room, you can actually click this button right here. And it will basically populate a mannequin with everywhere that there is a seat node or an animation. If it's an animation, these little actors would be animating. But at least it gives you an idea of where all the seat nodes are in a room. I know that's not exactly the question you were asking, and but in small cases, this can be a good alternative. But we are planning to support secondary and tertiary actors in IMVU Studio. That's probably going to be coming next quarter. So thanks for that.
Oh yeah, there was another question about performance. Noticed it's Lee Brooks says, I noticed IMVU Studio is much slower than the Classic Client. Is this going to be improved? And yes, we are actively working on it. This has been a recent and big push for us because we realize that there's been some performance issues. We actually have made some very recent performance improvements with the latest version. And we're continuing to look at this. You want to add anything, Tauntaun?
Yeah, sure. There's one pretty large change that we made from the Classic Client to IMVU Studio in terms of security. We're trying not to store any ancestor assets locally on your machine when you're working on products. We try to keep that stuff encrypted, and we try to keep it on the servers. So as you're changing your product and as it's, as you're pressing preview and reforming, it does have to make a few more calls back and forth to our servers in order to make that preview happen. And that's the place where we're trying to get a lot more efficient, only sending assets that need to go back to the server and back, and trying to speed that up. Previews are not going to go down to 0, but we're trying to get them under a second from preview to preview, and that would include even rooms. One thing you'll notice that we've improved in the latest version is the initial load and preview of, let's say, if you're working on a large room, those are sometimes the ones that take the longest. That initial load will take a long time, but subsequent loads from there, once you've previewed it once, subsequent previews should actually be a lot faster. So what we're working on now is that initial load, trying to get that initial load time down. So yes, we're working on it. It's not going to go down to 0 like the client, but we think that it is a decent compromise in order to get our community a little bit better security around their assets. Let's see where else we are here.
The anonymous attendee said, so this may have been answered. Will icons still be in the new client? And then a second question, is there a search field in the inventory for wearable items in edit product mode? So to answer the first questions, so if icons, you mean by be able to insert your own icon? Yeah, so there's an icon that's created by our asset server, and that's what shows up in the home mode. But we also can put in your own icon. In fact, you're required to put in a thumbnail so that it shows up on the classic client. As far as customizing those icons, Tauntaun, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think this is what you're getting at when you're saying icons. I think you mean your catalog images. I guess is what we're talking about.
Or on your home screen, on the home screen, when it shows up on the home screen.
Right. Well, you know, if you there are two places that have your sort of catalog image, right? One place is here in the info panel. This is required before you can actually submit a product for publishing. And this thumbnail can be whatever you want it to be, although it does have to be 100 by 80, just like the old classic client. This is the thumbnail that will be in the classic client catalog. But then there's also the auto-generated image for IMVU Desktop and IMVU Mobile. And this is an example of, well, this isn't a very good example of these, but once you publish your product, then we create an auto-generated image, and that goes into the catalog in IMVU Desktop and IMVU Mobile. We're working on a project right now to actually give the creator control over the camera and over different shades like light, medium, and dark mannequins that they can take their snapshot with, to basically give you a lot more control over you know what part of your product you're looking at, and that will become your image in the new catalog. And so we hope that gives you a little bit more customizability into how your products look. We're not going to be getting rid of the mannequin that your product will be displayed on, mainly because we're trying to keep a little bit of semblance of conformity when it comes to the new catalog, but at the same time giving you customization over how that product is shown in your thumbnail window. So yeah, so thanks for those questions.
How are we doing on time, Riggs?
We're doing pretty well. So if there are any other questions you want to answer,
yeah, I'm going through.
Looking through the list here. I'm seeing a lot of questions here that are a little more technical and a little more about the creation process. And we're definitely going to take note of all of those questions and maybe revisit those in a future video. But I think at a minimum, after this Q&A, Riggs, maybe we can direct a lot of people to some of the new tutorials that we have, and some of the new video tutorials that we're starting to post up, and that should help people a lot with some of these questions.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put that link in. There's a bunch of like Tauntaun was saying, there are a bunch of like how to make a product, how to edit a product, the kind of the basics for creators who are just starting out, and they should be super helpful if you just need a little guidance on making products using the creator tool. So I'll stick that in there too. Stay tuned. Hold on for just a sec.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm putting this in here. This is to our Creator Education Center, specifically IMVU
Great.
Studio. And that if you just scroll down to tutorials, that should give you a good start. And you can always, if you have questions, if you go to help.imvu.com, I'll type that in there. There's a special section in the discussions portion that's specifically for IMVU Studio. It's called IMVU Studio Beta. So if you're creating on IMVU Studio and you have questions, just put your question in there. Both Tauntaun Tonic and Drosselmeyer monitor those on a regular basis, so they will see your question and they will be able to help you. Is there anything else that we can think of before we go?
I can answer a quick question from Deborah. She asked, I bought a room, tried to decorate with the products previously purchased and then saved it, but it was not saved. And yes, I kind of went over that a little bit. When you go into decoration mode in IMVU, at least in IMVU Studio, all the decoration that you do is only for reference. Only to reference the actual product that you're creating. If you decorate a room with furniture and save that room, the furniture does not get saved or published with it. If you want to create a furnished room, for that, you go into the old classic client, or you can do it in IMVU Desktop. And you go in to furnish a room and then create a furnished room that will create a chat room of your furnished room. So yeah, little bit of confusion there that we're trying to clean up.
Awesome.
Oh, here's another good question. I'll go ahead and mark this answer live. Anonymous answers, will you be supporting room portals to easily go from one room to another? That is a great question. We don't have that support yet, but that is definitely something we're thinking about. Yes, that would be very cool.
Anything else? Any other burning questions to answer?
Yeah, it's going through here.
Okay.
We have so many questions.
So many questions.
Scroll.
Yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
I know. Sorry, we won't be able to get to everyone's question.
We will definitely take a note of all the questions and try and put those into the post when we post the link to the live session. When we do that. Yeah,
for sure.
I have seen a couple questions here about IMVU Studio crashing. Yeah, we are still in beta. There is some instability there. But just to remind everyone, if I could share my screen one more time.
Oh, yeah.
And let me just open this again. If you experience a hang or a crash in IMVU Studio, if you go to the little question mark down here and click on report a problem, it actually sends log data to us. Give us a little explanation of what happened and click on report, and we get that instantly. And that will give us a much better idea. And it will help us out immensely to try to track down some of these hangs and crashes that people are experiencing. So I just thought I'd point that out to everyone.
And while Tauntaun and Drosselmeyer are looking through your questions, just want to give you a heads up that there will be another learning session May 28th, same format, and this will be at 11 a.m. Pacific time. the topic there is to learn how to optimize your products using IMVU Studio, which is going to be, I think, super vital to people who are transitioning from Classic to IMVU Studio. So I think this is a really good one for you guys to attend, and also really good for people who are newer to creating, just learning kind of best practices on how to create really good product that functions well and looks good. So we please stay tuned for invites to those. You'll receive them as direct messages, and we'll also post them on help.imvu.com in the creator discussion section. And that's all I have to say. Anything else from you guys?
I'm frantically typing through some answers here.
Okay, I am too. I think what we should probably do, if there are no, if you're unable to answer these questions, like, you know, now without scrolling through a bunch of stuff, I think we could probably answer these through an article that features the recorded video. I think that might be good.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. I did see a question just come up from Gris E. Where can I see the previous Zoom? Probably I think he's talking about the session we had before this one.
Yeah.
Do we have that posted somewhere yet, Riggs?
We do. There's there are a few links. Let me grab, I thought I had posted that earlier. Let me just grab that. Hold on for 1 second. Just talk amongst yourselves while I give you the link. Hold on 1 moment.
And while you're looking that up, a new question came in from D. Vanessa. When you develop new products in IMVU Studio, does it prevent you from using the products in the Classic client? Products published in IMVU Studio will show up in the old Classic shop, and you can still purchase them, and they should still work. But keep in mind that new features like the new particle system that's coming out, and new normal and shininess maps, and all of the new rendering features, you won't see those effects in the old Classic client. It's a different, much older rendering engine, but you still have access to those products, and you'll still be able to use them in the Classic client. But of course, we prefer you to use them in desktop or mobile, because they'll look much more dynamic in our new platforms.
One more thing to add to that, though, is I'm typing this into the answer is it is that you can go make changes as long as there have been no derivations to your product, like from your product.
Gotcha. And I just posted the recording of the previous session, which is an overview of what IMVU Studio looks like, and basics like uploading files and some very cool looking features. And also some really cool looking features that will soon be released. So that's a really good session to view again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, there are 42 questions open, you guys. We'll do our best. We'll do our best to answer them in the article that we'll be posting that will feature this recorded video. So, and you should all see those in the discussion forums on help.imvu.com, and we'll also add it to your the creator news in your creator dashboard, so you can have easy access to it. I think we have to say goodbye. I think it is time.
I have one more question to answer here.
Oh, okay, go.
We don't want to leave you guys.
I know, it's like 43. We can do it. We can do it. We can be here for a couple hours.
Yeah, this is another backward compatibility or Classic client support question. I'll just go mark this out, answer live. D. Van S asks, when you develop products in IMVU Studio, does it prevent you from using these products in the Classic client? And the answer is no. There are some features that won't show up in the Classic client, such as the shininess and normal maps, because the Classic client doesn't, the renderer doesn't support that. support those features, but the products will load and display in the classic client. The other one I can think of is the new Particles V2, which is that's a studio only feature. But yeah.
Yes, our new V2 particles, which are coming out in the next version. Can't wait to unleash this on everyone. It is only going to be a desktop / mobile / IMVU Studio project. If you apply new particle systems to like to a shirt product, let's say, and you publish that shirt product, you'll still be able to buy the shirt in Classic, but you won't see the particle system that comes along with it, since it's a completely different rendering system. So moving forward, a lot of new features are only going to be available on the new platforms, but we're trying to keep as much compatibility as we can with the old client for the time being.
Any more questions, gentlemen, that you can answer?
I think I'm about answered out.
Are you answered out? Well, I mean, the fact that you're asking all of these questions, this is amazing. And we will definitely keep track of everything you're asking so we can answer when in the recorded version. And we will be putting that recorded version out there very soon. So I think we must say goodbye for now. Again, please, we look forward to having you attend our May 28th session, which will take place at 11 a.m. Pacific time, and that'll be on optimizing your products. As I mentioned before, this is a great session for both more experienced creators and newer creators. It'll teach you great habits and best practices. So we look forward to having you attending. And I think that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Thank you so much, Drosselmeyer and Tantan, for providing your expertise and answering all of these questions. And we look forward to next time. Adios.
Yeah, thank you all.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We will see everyone very soon.
All righty. Bye.